Hi guys, it's me again, Megan. Today we're going to talk about cleaning up and general housekeeping. So, there is a lot of mess to be made when you're making art in a ceramic studio. One of the messiest things you can do is work on a potter's wheel. So we're going to talk about cleaning up your potter's wheel and doing it as quickly as possible, while also hopefully using up very little water. So the first thing you want to do when you're done throwing on your wheel is turn the wheel off. I find wheels left on all the time. And the next thing you're going to do is get a big sponge, one of these. So I'm going to get my sponge and I'm going to get it wet with clean water, and then I'm going to wring the water out of it so I have a nice damp sponge. I'm going to bring that over to my wheel. And then the first thing I'm going to do is squeegee everything off. So I'm going to take my damp, clean sponge, and if there's water, a big pool of water in my splash pan, I'm going to soak it up and wring it back into my bucket. But I don't have that on here, so I'm just going to start squeegeeing. So you get it to this point, and you just grab all of that material with your sponge. And then you'll rinse your sponge off in your bucket until it's relatively clean.
I did not know that.
If your bucket is full of really, really goopy, slippy water, you can dump that into the buckets in the sink and get a little bit of new clean water for this purpose. But you get this, I'm gonna scoop it all up with your nice clean sponge. We'll get the other side. It's the same thing. So now we're 90% of the way there. If there's clay all over this, your wheel head, you can turn your wheel back on to do this part. So imagine there's a bunch of goop all over this. I'm gonna take my nice clean big sponge and I'm just gonna turn my wheel so that I can scoop everything off of it. Okay?
Okay.
Now that this is mostly clean, I'm gonna push down on these two tabs and it'll bring this loose. From there, I'm gonna clean the rest of it.
That looks so tricky.
After you wipe this all down, you can rinse it off really quickly in the sink to get any remaining haze that's on it, to make sure that it doesn't get dusty. I'm pretty confident that this is clean, however. But you're gonna wipe all of this off too, so we're gonna set these up here while we finish everything else. The rest of your tools, you're gonna treat them the same way. I don't need to bring this over to the sink and wash it like a dish. I'm gonna take my clean sponge and I'm just gonna scrape everything off of it. One side and then the other. And then that's it. I'm gonna wring this out until it's nice and clean and as dry as I can get it. I'm gonna do the same thing with this. 1, 2. And then again, if they're still a little funky, you can take them to the sink and give them a final rinse, but we're not standing at the sink and washing our dishes. Because what happens is it creates a big long line for the sink. There's a hook under here you can put your wire tool on once you've wiped it off. And while you're doing that, you're gonna look at the wall and see if there are any droplets. And I'm gonna clean this sponge out again. I'm just gonna make the situation worse. There we go. And I'll wipe those off. I'm gonna get this rib, same thing, just a tight squeeze, right through there. And then I'm gonna get the main body of the wheel, just like that.
So clean.
So tidy. I'll put this up here, and we'll deal with this last. So, I actually am gonna give this a rinse. You can see there's a little bit of a haze that's starting to appear on it. So I'll give it a rinse with clean water. It should be clean enough that that's all that it needs. This part of the splash pan is gonna go underneath a plate that's here. So there's a little metal plate, you can feel it if you reach under. So I'm gonna put it on the opposite side of the wheel for me, slide that under the plate, and then force it underneath. If it's on there right, it should sort of be stuck. And then this side, I'm gonna tip it like this and get them underneath the little tabs and push down. And then it's put together.
Voila.
I'm gonna make sure it's off, and I can put my stool and my foot pedal up. And then my wheel is clean. After I'm done throwing, it will really cut down on the dust in my way if I also wipe off my bag. You can do this when it's on the wheel. I didn't think of it until now. So I'm just gonna do it now. And I'll put that on my shelf. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is get my sponge nice and clean. And I'm gonna wipe off up here this oft forgotten island. Then we're gonna take our dirty bucket and our tools over to the sink.
Doesn't matter which sink.
Doesn't matter which sink. First thing I'm gonna do is put my tools away. Metal tool, wooden tool. Ribs live up here. Oh, but they're down. Well, they're going home. Now, let's talk about the big bucket. Okay, we're gonna talk about this big bucket. Nothing in this bucket gets reclaimed. This bucket is all for the trash. So, its real purpose is to keep giant goopy hunks of clay from going down the sink. So if you think that you have clay that can be reclaimed or reused, you're either gonna keep it yourself if it's wet, or if it's little scraps like trimmings, you can put them over with the reclaim in the reclaim area. If it's something that you don't want to, like you don't want to put it in your scraps, you don't want to reclaim it, like maybe it's big goopy chunks, but it's solid and you can pick it up, throw it out, put it in the trash, okay? Put your trimmings in the trash. All of that can go in the trash. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my dirty bucket full of slippy water and I'm gonna pour the really thin stuff out into the sink, like this. And then as it gets low and there's the kind of chunky stuff, that is going in this bucket. Let me get these in here. Okay?
Okay.
And then that way, like this, I can grab this now. She's going in the trash. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this bucket that I did with the wheel. I'm gonna take my clean sponge and I'm gonna drag it across the surface to take everything off of it and soak up the dirty water so that I have a really clean surface without anything goopy on it. When you just try to run it under water and just push it around, that's all you end up doing is pushing it back and forth. So now I can give it a final rinse. And it's relatively clean.
Voila.
And so is our sink. And then we'll put it away. The last thing I'm gonna do is mop up after myself. So, this is our mop sink. Our mops live here. Sometimes if it's the end of class, your teacher will have filled the mop sink with water. Use that mop water, that's fine. But if not, you can also just rinse your mop off, wring it out. I usually do it twice, because somehow these are always dirty. And then I come over to where I've been throwing, or anywhere that I've been working, and I mop around my workspace so that I know that the area is nice and clean. And also I'm gonna mop here because maybe a little bit. And then you just rinse it up again. This is not the most water efficient way to do it, but it works.